I started my own business despite my parents' opposition. They then tried to take my money and filed a lawsuit against me. I was never liked by my parents. They went to the same college and were infatuated in high school. My mother found out she was pregnant while still in college. Their ambitious intentions to tour the world and see other cultures were dashed. Although they thought about ending the pregnancy, their parents forbade it. My mother eventually left college and moved in with her parents because she was unable to cope with the criticism and rumors from other people. I entered the world in this manner. My grandparents loved me, but my mother hated me. She never spent time with me, so for a long time I thought she was my sister and my grandparents were my parents. When I tried to get her attention, she would either yell at me or ignore me. I didn't know about my father because he wasn't around. During this period, my parents were dating. I know they didn't want a kid, but I didn't understand why they detested me as a kid. Both of my grandparents were friendly to me, spent time with me and watched after me. By the time of my father's college graduation, I was beginning to walk and speak. He started coming to see me. He came to see me every weekend because he felt bad about not being more active in my life. I assumed he was just my grandparents' friend. My grandparents urged him to get to know me, but my mother didn't like it when he spent time with me and insisted that he ignore me. That's how I found out he was my dad. He moved in with my mother. After he got a job, my mother was dead set against my dad wanting me to live with them as they got older. My grandparents wanted my parents to take on that role, so I moved in with my parents when I was 5. They only agreed to it reluctantly. It would be an understatement to say that I hated living with my parents. It felt like the light had been replaced by darkness in my life. My mother threatened to kick me out if I did anything wrong, and was always reminding me to be grateful that I was still living with them. My dad came home late at night after a long day at work. After a long day at work, my dad insisted that I go to bed because he couldn't handle me that day and needed time alone. My grandparents used to love me, but now I live with parents who hate me. I knew I wasn't wanted, but I didn't know why. Unlike other children, I'd arrive at school with unfinished assignments. My instructor would call my mother to yell at me for being lazy and to take responsibility because I was so afraid of her. I started to complete my assignments meticulously in the hopes that one day she'd accept me. However, she never did. My father continued to live in his own universe, unconcerned with my everyday activities or academic achievement. As I got older, I realized the true feelings my parents had for me. I noticed that they regarded me differently than other children. I observed other parents. They'd embrace, kiss and grin as they dropped their kids off. I never got that. I felt like I was living with strangers. I even started wondering if I was their biological child. So I asked my grandparents every time I went to see them. They confirmed that I was their child. They told me that my parents just needed more time to grow up. My mother never said anything mean. If I were in high school with you, I would have bullied you mercilessly. It was strange to hear my mother make fun of my hair, glasses, and weight. My mother refused to acknowledge that. I had a milk allergy, even though my grandparents knew about it. One day she made me drink milk, saying that children in her era didn't have allergies and that I was pretending to have one to be cool. I ended up in the hospital with a serious allergic reaction, which shook her up. She never gave me milk again after that. She was so upset when my dad yelled at her as well. My recovery involved a lot of talking. As my grandparents rushed to the hospital to be with me, my parents' attitude toward me changed after this episode. In the evenings, my dad would spend time with me and put me to bed, and my mother began getting me up for school and helping me get ready. They started treating me like a human being. I'm not sure what happened when I saw my dad invite me to watch football games with him, or my mom inquire about school. It was odd but enjoyable. I got to know my parents better through this. I didn't have any negative feelings towards them, so I think I was born with a lot of empathy. One of my favorite memories of the three of us is going to the beach on the weekends. My parents started showing me some love, and I stopped feeling envious of the other kids in my class. My mom's mom taught me how to crochet. When I was 15, I realized I had a natural talent for it. My granddad had passed away by then, And my grandma was making a few $100s a year selling her beautiful handmade crochet items at the local craft market. I was really drawn to the intricate designs and vibrant colors she used. She used a lot of different colors, and I was really interested in all the different aspects of her work. I got really into making one-of-a-kind and customized items. As I spent more time developing my crocheting abilities under her guidance, I decided to try selling my own crocheted goods. I was inspired by my grandmother's. I got the idea to sell my own crocheted goods after seeing how well her artwork was doing at the same neighborhood craft market. My grandma was really encouraging, so I set up a tiny stand and got ready to take on the world. The feedback I got was incredible. I could make money from my interest. As soon as people found out about my talent, students, acquaintances, and even locals began placing special orders. Customers were really interested in the idea of owning something handmade and unique. Each piece I created told a story about my abilities and inventiveness. I was excited to see how far I could push the limits of conventional crochet. I started experimenting with new techniques. I've been creating with other yarn textures, colors, and patterns for a while now. I started out with basic blankets and scarves, but I've since moved on to more elaborate wearables and home decor pieces. My skills have really developed over time, and I've been encouraged by all the positive comments and repeat business. My grandma advised me to open a savings account to help me manage my money better. When I started earning a decent income, she suggested that I put my salary aside for college. My parents were pretty shocked to learn how much I was making, and they were even more surprised when I told them I was making a living from crocheting. They'd always considered it to be a pointless pastime. They were shocked to see that I was earning a lot of money for my age. My mother told me I couldn't go to my grandmother's house, and my father said he'd burn all my crocheted items. He said he wasn't working hard to pay for my school, so I could waste time on stupid things. When I told them that the money I had earned was with my grandma, they called her and started shouting at me, despite my parents insisting that they should have every penny. My grandma refused to give them anything when she discovered they were attempting to steal my money. This helped me realize that my parents were still as self-centered as ever. Despite everything that had happened, I was still determined not to lose the money that might be used to pay for my college education. I couldn't give up my love of crocheting. My parents' actions made me question whether they would even pay for my college education, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. I made a plan to spend every weekend working on my designs at my grandmother's house. My best buddy, who knew what was going on and gave me a hand, was the one I told my parents I was staying with when I was actually at my grandmother was a huge help in getting my company off the ground. To reach a wider audience, I also started using online channels like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Social media has become a great way to interact with other artists and show off my work. The digital world gave me lots of chances to share my passion with people all over the world. My little stand at the neighborhood craft show grew into a successful internet business over time. As a co-owner, my grandmother helped me open a bank account in her name. I had complete faith in her, and because of her, I was able to she helped me set aside all of my money for college, even though my parents wanted to keep it for themselves. She had faith in me. My mother once looked through my phone without my knowledge and found out that I had an internet company. We got into a heated argument once she discovered that I was still running it behind her back. Their backs. My grandmother and I were both yelled at by my parents. They said they'd raised and taken care of me all my life and demanded that I give them all the money I'd made. I almost cried as I tried to explain that I wasn't hurting anyone, and that the money was for my college. He said he couldn't trust me anymore because I cheated on them. My mother wanted me to remove my Instagram page, but I canceled my account instead. I planned to start it up again once I was no longer under my parents' control. Then at 9 a.m. they imposed strict phone limitations. Until 4 p.m. and 12 a.m. until 8 in the morning. On top of that, they started tracking my whereabouts and looking through my online history. They sent me alerts if I looked up anything they thought was inappropriate, even harmless things like buying underwear. My parents would call me and my friends several times if I didn't come home right away after going out with them. I was only allowed to do that twice a week. They also stopped me from crocheting with my grandmother. Sometimes I was allowed to spend a few hours with her after school. If I didn't comply, they threatened to disconnect my phone and internet. Although I was only 16 and had no way of leaving, there were plenty of days when I just wanted to escape. My parents agreed to let me work part-time at a nearby cafe in exchange for a quarter of my profits. I gave them their weekly allotment and sent my grandmother the remaining 75% to be. I had my wages paid into my bank account. My parents made my life difficult by frequently entering my room at odd hours to check on me, reading through my emails and chats, and keeping tabs on where I was. If I disobeyed their rules, I was grounded or made to give them a larger portion of my wages. I was determined to get into a good college, as it would be my ticket out of this situation. Despite everything, I concentrated on doing well in school. I packed everything I had purchased for myself the night before my 17th birthday, leaving behind things my parents had given me, like my phone. I cleared my phone to be sure they couldn't follow me or discover any details about my plans. I was finally able to move in with my grandmother when she came to take me. When my parents saw me go, they became irate and began fighting with my grandmother, threatening to call the police. I was now 17 and could make my own decisions. I told them to go ahead. They threatened to tell everyone that I was an unappreciative daughter in an attempt to blackmail me, but I didn't care. Additionally, they threatened to stop providing any financial aid for college, but I grinned since I knew I had saved enough. I was really excited to get some money to qualify for a scholarship. I was also feeling a bit anxious and relieved as I left the house. I had no idea that my path would soon take a surprising detour. It was really nice to spend the first few weeks at my grandmother's house. I was finally free to breathe again. I started by getting a new phone and a new number. Then my grandmother and I went to the bank to change my minor account to an individual one. Being able to use my own card and account without anyone's consent made me very happy. I started crocheting again, so I revived my Instagram account. My grandmother was really encouraging, and even offered me a tiny room in her home where I could erect a temporary studio. A week after I moved out, I received word from neighbors and family that my parents had celebrated their newfound freedom with a party. My parents were really pleased to have a new family life without me. They shared lots of photos of themselves having fun and drinking all night long. They even invited their friends who don't have kids. At first, I found out about the party just 1 week after I left. It was a bit of a shock. It was a stark reminder of how unwelcome I had been in their lives when they found out about the event. My dad's parents were equally taken aback and got in touch right away to find out what had happened. Once they had my new number from one of my cousins, I told them the truth about my connection with my parents. I told them why I left. When they heard about the abuse, they were shocked and asked why I hadn't contacted them for help. I explained that my grandparents and a few friends were the only people I could talk to, because my parents wouldn't let me. At this point, my dad's parents told me. They said that my parents had never wanted me at all after I moved in with them. They thought my parents had changed, but they were wrong. They asked me to forgive them for not supporting me. They also spoke to my grandmother, who told them about the many arguments she had with my dad's parents. Decided to tell everyone in the family about what my parents had done. As word got out among family members and acquaintances, individuals began contacting one another to offer their support. I was surprised by how much empathy people showed for my situation. Some even offered financial assistance, but I turned them down and asked them to promote my crocheting business instead. This is how my company started to expand. I received a full scholarship acceptance to my ideal college. Around this time, a positive change in my life was on the horizon. My grandma lived close to the college, so I could go. I saw her every weekend to crochet or spend time with her. My dad's parents chose to give me their old vehicle as a gift, which meant I was able to see my grandmother more easily because it only required minor repairs. A friend of mine who was employed at a local newspaper contacted me to inquire about writing a piece about me. As there weren't many young company owners in our community, she thought my story might encourage other young people to pursue their own goals. I thought about it and agreed to the interview. I hope that if a child is in a bad situation like I was, they might read my story and be inspired. I thought it might inspire others, but I didn't think it was a huge deal because I still had a lot of work to do on my business. It seemed odd to see my journey highlighted in the paper when the piece was published, even though it was only a minor accomplishment. I felt proud of the effort I had put into my business in spite of all the challenges. For the first time in a very long time, other family members and friends began to contact me to congratulate me on my accomplishment. And my grandmother was quite proud of me. This was a novel sensation for me. My parents never encouraged or acknowledged my diligence. When I was growing up, I called my grandmother and told her off. After reading the account, they demanded that I publicly give them credit for my business and said I was betraying them by going behind their backs. They'd started getting criticism from relatives for being too controlling. They also threatened to sue me, and they even demanded that I give them a portion of my revenues. I started the business under my grandmother's roof. She told them forcefully and challenged them to try to take me to court, which they would undoubtedly lose. I was so upset over their actions, but I knew I couldn't yell at my parents. Instead, I invited my close friends and family to a little celebration that I had planned before I left for college. It was an opportunity to celebrate my business and hard work with people who truly loved me. I thought I deserved it. We had an amazing time, as you can imagine. My folks heard about it and managed to obtain my new phone number. They began emailing me, saying they wished they had never had me and labeling me an ungrateful daughter. My dad even sent me a lengthy text saying that I was squandering money celebrating with other people, while he had spent his entire life supporting me. When my parents celebrated after I moved out, it was a bit much to have a party to celebrate with my loved ones. Update 1. I had no idea my tale would go viral when I uploaded it to Reddit. It was all over TikTok in a matter of days. I'm afraid my parents might learn about this. Please pray they don't for me. You've suggested I block my parents permanently, and I'm planning to do just that. It's time for them to understand how their actions have affected me. I'd like to send them one last email, despite what some of you have said. I'm not a doormat because I'm still young and my parents are toxic. It's challenging. It's not something you're prepared for. Society says parents always want the best for us, but that's not always the case. I know some of you think I'm at fault for allowing my parents to take advantage of me, but I'm still learning how to advocate for myself. I've thought a lot about our relationship, both past, present, and future. I've come to realize that I need to cut off contact with you if I'm to further my personal development and well-being. I craved your love when I was young and tried to live up to your standards, but I was never good enough. I've tried several times over the years to gain your acceptance and understand why you seem to despise me, but I've never been accepted. From my first memories when my mom made me drink milk despite my allergies, to feeling alienated in my own house, your behavior has influenced. Despite all this, I kept hoping for a connection with you that never happened. With Grandma's help, I found a sense of purpose and comfort in crocheting, which I thought could help us connect. But as I built my company, your attempts to manipulate and discredit me have made me more determined to leave this toxic atmosphere. Your attempts to control my celebrations are threatening legal action, and insisting on taking a piece of my hard-earned money just serve to show how toxic you are to me. I just want you to know that this choice isn't meant to be hurtful or retaliatory. It's a way of taking care of myself. It's the start of creating a life that's free of poison and full of the love and support that every child deserves. I don't mean to disrespect any of you, but I have to put my mental and emotional health first. I appreciate you encouraging me to be self-sufficient and undervaluing my abilities. I hope you both find happiness without me, and wish you luck in your future pursuits. I ask that you honor I've decided to stop communicating with my parents. I know it's difficult, but I think it's best for everyone involved. I was crying when I wrote this email. Even though I know I should be strong and remember all the bad things they've done to me, we're conditioned to adore our parents as children, and it's not easy to overcome that. I've blocked them on all social media and other platforms. I'm going to college soon and I'm feeling a little anxious about it. My dad's parents and my grandmother is helping me move to my new dorm. I'm excited to meet new people and make new friends. To everyone who's asked, I'm still going to be a college student, but I'm not going to give up on my crocheting business. I love creating original designs, and I'm going to put in a lot of effort to balance it with my studies. That's all I have to say for now. Update 3. My previous update was 6 months ago. Wow, I can't believe how much time has gone by and how my life has changed. Above all, I'm doing really well in college. The classes are pretty tough, but I'm trying to keep my GPA up. My crocheting business is doing well, but I know a college degree will give me a leg up in the long run. I've also made some great friends and even gotten more crochet orders thanks to them. I've been able to meet new people and see new things thanks to college. Compared to the loneliness I experienced at home, this is a big change for the better. I'm even dating a guy named Kyle. We've only been dating for 2 months, but we're really getting to know each other. I'll see how things work out because he's a nice man. I make a point of going to see my grandmother every weekend. We're still working from her temporary workspace to complete our crochet orders. The company is doing well and our clients are happy with us. Following my passion has given me a sense of fulfillment and purpose. In addition to financial stability, it's been 6 months since I emailed my folks. They haven't tried to get in touch with me, according to my grandparents. My parents sold everything and left the country in search of a fresh start. They felt that everyone was criticizing them, but I don't know where they are now, and to be honest, I don't care. It says a lot that they decided to go without making an effort to make amends or even offering an apology. I hope they find happiness and are able to follow their lifelong dreams. It's time for me to focus on my own path and on creating the life I've always wanted. Thank you. To everyone who has been following my story and providing supportive comments, I am really grateful for your support. If there is one thing I have learned from all of this, it is how important it is to surround yourself with positive, self-affirming people. I am where I am now because of my grandmother and others who had faith in me. This will probably be my final update, so thank you to everyone for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.